This is Eezy 107.5 FM.
In terms of parenthood and coming up and their influence on your life?
Well, my mom was British. My father was Ghanaian. So the combination is
British or Ghanaian British?
Brony British.
Perfect.
Yeah. So if you combine the two, it makes me Ghanish. British and Ghanaian.
That's right.
But I had a very loving family. My father was very strict. He was an army officer in the British Army. He retired as a captain, and then he opened his accountancy consultancy firm. Having said that, he was very, very family-oriented person. You know, he looked after his children, even though it was like the guys say that we know true, we know it. If you don't work, right, you don't eat. You know, so you had to do certain things in order to earn what you're supposed to get from your parents. But they were quite loving, especially my mom. My mom was very soft-hearted. But of course, you know how a lot of army officers are. They're very strict when it comes to their work, family life, and stuff like that. But I had a very good family. I'm the last born. My eldest brother, John Annan Forson, unfortunately passed away in '89. That was his first time, by the way.
That's it. Okay.
Then my second eldest brother, Gerald Annan Forson, is a photographer. And my sister Rosemary Annan Forson, she's in London, and myself. So we have a very tight-knit family, and that's the way we do it.
Okay. You didn't have to grow up in the barracks as we have other people.
No.
Barracks boys. And
No. My father, like I said, retired as a British captain. But having said that, you know, we had a lot of military rule in the house, you know, the do's and the don'ts, the says and the says not, and all that. But
what were some of the do's and the don'ts in the house that you remember? These might have helped to shape your life.
Well, I think one thing that he did, which was good, which sort of had a very huge influence on my broadcasting career, was the fact that he would never allow us to speak a local language in the house. So even though I speak more Ga, I'm a Fanti, I speak more Ga because I mixed more with Ga friends. But he always made sure that we spoke English in the house because he wanted to make sure that, you know, we didn't have that problem with the English language. So that was one thing that he did very well.
Do you find that as helpful today?
Very helpful.
The Ghanaian languages all the more, because some people are saying that we are corrupting our children when we don't let them speak their mother tongue first.
Well, I think you can look at it both ways. I mean, Ghana as a British colony, you know, we're colonized by the British, and so I don't know whether I'll be right in saying that English is our first language, you know, ordinary language, so to speak. We have our local languages. Yes, we need to preserve our culture, and so if you're able to speak your own local language, I don't think there's a problem with that. But I think in terms of education and knowing that we speak a lot of English, I think it's quite imperative that we speak the English language.
Okay. And then you went to school. Which school did you attend?
As a matter of fact, I attended only two schools. One was, if you're talking about primary school, was Labadi Home School at the time, where I finished in 1968, and then I went to Feeden Secondary School, which was then Eden Secondary School, now Feeden High School, where I finished Form 5. And those were basically the two major schools that I went to, not to talk about creche and kindergarten.
Now, coming out of school, going through school, and then you may have set your sights on what you want to become in future. I know we wrote essays on the topic like my future career. What career were you hoping to go into?
You know, when I was a little boy, I always wanted to find out how things worked. So any toy that they brought me, you know, fascinated me, but I wanted to find out how it worked, you know. So I was that kind of person who would break things to pieces, put them back together, make sure they worked as I got them. And so it occurred to me that, well, why don't I be a mechanical engineer, you know, working on cars and stuff. But that was my fascination. And that's what I wanted to do. But unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way. Something else came.
Okay. So Feeden High School, and then from then on, what did you do?
I I always say this. I wanted to go to sixth form. I wanted to go to the university, but unfortunately, because of funding, and stuff like that, I was not able to go to. So I've never been to sixth form. I've never been to the university.
Right.
So perhaps with the kind of English that I speak was self-taught. My first Bible being the Holy Bible, my second Bible being the dictionary. But then, having to think of the fact that I wanted to be an engineer and it didn't work out, a misfortune set in, and therefore my whole career took a different turn.
All right.
Yeah.
So next moment, Annan Forson found his way into broadcasting. How did that door open for you to get into broadcasting?
This is a story I've told over and over again, but it's a fascinating story, I guess.
Let's hear it.
And so, again, to repeat, is that every misfortune is a blessing. I went down with hepatitis, jaundice, jaundice. And so I was confined to bed for quite a number of weeks. Those days, we had only one radio station, which was GBC2, GBC3, 4, and all that. And so I was in bed, and I wasn't really a radio person. I always listened to my kind of music, rock music, pop music. And so just by chance, I put on the radio, and I heard a particular song that, jolted me. It hit me. I said, wow, this is nice music. Then I heard the voice saying that you're listening to GBC2 with Jim. I'm a buffo. And I said, wow. And so that voice kind of captured me. It was very intriguing. He had a very lovely, silky voice, good accent. And when he was signing off, he said, he'll be back the same time the following afternoon, which was about between 2 and 3. And so I tuned in, and his selection of music really got to me. And I said, wow, I must find out who this person is. So even in my sickness, I went to GBC, filled the phone, went in, and I said I was looking for Jim Amokofo. He came out, very unassuming character, very friendly. You being in radio, you realize that voices can create a deception.
Certainly.
Yeah, you create a figure, huge figure, giant figure.
That's right.
Only to realize that, it's just this kind of...
Just like
yeah, exactly. And so when he came out, I said, well, I didn't come here to disturb you. I hope I'm not disturbing you, but I listened to you yesterday and today, and I just want to be friends with you if it's okay with you. He said, yeah. And so gradually it went on, and then a nightclub issue. I started DJing in nightclubs.
Right.
And it was a fascinating experience, notwithstanding the fact that I did not think about radio. But then he had a program on Saturdays on GBC2, and he invited me for interviews, crack jokes here and there, which I did. And so the people at GBC heard my voice, heard my humor, but of course they were not that humorous kind of broadcasting, so it was kind of strange. But then they asked me to apply. I did. They came to listen to me a couple of times in a nightclub. But unfortunately, I failed one of my papers, and so GBC was not allowed to pick people who didn't have the prerequisite results. But one person who fought for me, Mr. Felix Sejafa, director of radio then, he's so rest in peace, fought for me and said, look, let's give this guy a chance. This is a job of talent. You can have all the degrees in this world. If they put you behind the console, there's nothing you can do. And so that is how I got into broadcasting, gradually, But then, prior to that, there was a program called Variety Ahoy. It was a live program. I was a guest MC on the show. And so, basically, that was how my broadcasting career started. So, never thinking that I'll take it that far.
Right. So this was at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, then the only broadcasting station
at the
in
time.
the country. Were you then on GBC2?
I was then on GBC2, yes. But even on GBC2, there were particular programs you had to handle in order to break your voice in, because we had the voice like the late Samoa, James Amate, Freddie Kweku, Charlie Sam, and all those. And so when there was a strange voice, questions would come up. I said, who is that? Is he ready for this kind of job? But then, doing that for a number of weeks, people got used to my voice, and then they switched me to English-oriented programs, which I started doing. And so gradually I was accepted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Uncle Tommy, there was something about Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. When you keep turning the dial. Once it's on GBC, you knew that this is GBC because of the voice. Were voices modified to sound a certain way?
No, not at all. I mean, your voice is your voice, but then at the time, radio was transmitting on shortwave, and so the interference of atmospheric stuff, really wouldn't get, the clear sound that you were wanting to listen to. But every voice, I mean, we went for training a couple of times, but the thing of it is you can't change your voice. Maybe your inflection, your eloquence of the air is what they probably would work on, so that you add color to your voice. And so every voice was the way it was, but a certain amount of training, brought us to where it was supposed to be.
Right. So when they talk about voice training, not that they wanted you to sound a certain way, but
no, but the fact that you knew what to say, how to say it, why to say it at a particular time. And so they'll teach you what inflection was all about.
Yeah.
They taught us what phonetics was all about, pronunciation especially, so that you'd have that professionalism at the back of your head, not just to go on the air and say anything and just talk, anyhow. But for me, naturally, I think because of my mom, I had a natural accent on the air, which, thanks be to God, was accepted, by everybody. Yeah.
Was there competition at GBC?
There was no competition. The competition was that even though we competed amongst ourselves, we did it in a form of teamwork, where we would tease each other. It's like, okay, so Larry, my program was this today. Let's see if you can beat my program tomorrow. So I would have at the back of my mind that Larry was going to try and beat me. So it was fun. The competition was teamwork, but it was fun.
Okay. Tommy Annan Forson at GBC. Okay, so we progressed on from GBC. How long were you at GBC?
I was there close to 16 years.
Right. Then on the radio side.
On the radio side.
Was television around then?
Yeah, TV was around. I did a few TV programs, Bandstand, which was in the very early 80s. Then I did that for quite a number of years. And when there was a problem with the announcers having to introduce the program Parade on TV, I'd be called in to do it. Then it was black and white. So yes, and then gradually I came up with this comedy with Fritz Bar for FNF. So I'd done TV for quite a while. Yes.
Since you mentioned FNF, how did that come about? The combination, two of you put together there like that. I have at the back of my mind, Lauren and Hardy.
Okay, yeah, I remember, yeah. It's a very funny coincidence, so to speak. There was a gospel musician who came from Nigeria, Carol Breedy. She was performing then at Ambassador Hotel. Now, it was being handled by the Clujesons, okay, and so I think it was Kwame who got Fritz Barford to come and MC for the program, and Kofi called me to MC for the program, and so there was a clash, okay, and Fritz and I, later on getting to know that we're even related, said, okay, look, rather than create any confusion, why don't we just come together? You be the main MC, I'll be a co-MC. And at the time, I think Secretary for Information, Mr. Kofi Totobigwachi, was the guest of honor. And so each time Carol performed and there was a break, Fritz would come in and crack a joke. I would follow him, crack a joke. And unfortunately, Carol really got a little apprehensive because we ended up taking the show. People wanted to watch us and listen to us rather than listen to Carol Breedy. And so it became a little nasty affair. But then Kofi Totobigwachi said, well, why don't you guys do something on TV? And so straight away I talked about, okay, Fritz and Forson. And so we carved the name FNF.
That's right. All right, you're listening to Personality Profile here at Eezy FM 107.5. Guest this morning is the man Tommy Annan Forson. Doesn't need any introduction if you're talking about radio broadcasting, even into television broadcasting. We'll come back from the break. You're back with us on Eezy FM 107.5. Our guest this morning is on this Personality Profile, the man Tommy Annan Forson. We've been looking at how you got into broadcasting with GBC became the starting point for broadcasting. Lead us more. Where did we go from GBC? Because career began to develop. There were no FM stations, and then as we have today, what happened?
Well, there was GBC FM, which came way later on, and so was shuttled between GBC2 and FM, amongst the teams, So those were, I'll probably say that was the first.
Same voices.
Same voices, But then we had always been speculating about private broadcasting. At the time we were in a revolutionary era, and so nobody ever thought that private radio would ever come into being. But of course, that was the dream, considering the fact that there was so much, certain mechanisms were put in place that you had to go by. You had to be very mechanical in everything that you did. And so when we heard through the grapevine that private radio was coming into being, I said, well, I hope it does. Until I was approached by Mr. Kwesi Chum, owner of the multimedia, and said, oh, they were coming up with Joy FM. Would I like to be part of the team? I said, absolutely. And then Dusty Wayne, the late Dusty Wayne, was my buddy at the time. And I said, Dusty, this is what is coming up. But then we all thought about the risk factor. Was it going to survive? Was it going to work? How was it going to be accepted? Because we've drummed so much into from GBC to people's ears. But then that would also be a breaking point for us. And so we said, look, life itself is a risk. You can be alive today, tomorrow, the good Lord has called you. So why don't we try it? But then I sat down with Dusty and I said, look, if this is accepted, I think this will catapult us to a different level. So let's go try it. And yes, security-wise, people thought about security, your future, blah, blah, blah. We threw all that away. And so I left, Dusty and I left on the 30th of April, 95. And on the 1st of May, I was on the air at 6 a.m. on 99.7. Now, Larry, you can imagine the confusion in people's heads. There were a lot of advertisements concerning the fact that private radio was coming into being. And so when people heard me on the air, totally a different Tommy Annan Forson. I came out with everything that I had, because on GBC you were not allowed to laugh, you were not allowed to giggle, it was so stiff. But I was the very first person to laugh on GBC, and I got queried for it. But I said, look, this is me. Accept me for who I am. That's my talent. And so gradually it became to be accepted. So when we got on to Joy, the transition was a little tough because uncertainty rose in. You're so used to a certain kind of broadcasting, so to let loose at once would be a little tough. But then I said to myself, come on, what the heck? Once I've been given this opportunity, I just exploded. I just let loose with everything that I had. Humor, laughter, music, just name it. And we thank God Almighty that it was so successful, even though there was a lot of confusion. We had Tommy on 95.7 yesterday, and today is 99.7. So it's possible that GBC have opened a new station, but why the Joy FM? And so gradually people, realized that, it was a private station, and that was where the excitement came in. So it was a fantastic experience.
Right. The confusion would be there because people tune to the radio channel that they want, mainly by voice.
Mainly by voice. And of course, those days were only two frequencies, 95.7 right. And then 99.7. So you either had this choice or that choice.
Right.
But people wanted to find out, okay, 99.7 is all music and entertainment and blah, 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 and all that. And so the excitement grew, and it took us a bit for Kwesi Chum, myself, Dusty Wayne, to come up with the programming for Joy FM. And so that's how the Super Morning Show came into being, Cosmopolitan Mix. Everything was done in my living room, and today that is the success story of Joy FM.
That's wonderful. Tommy Annan Forson, for you here, as we continue to look at your life through and to a radio also. So Joy FM became Joy FM, and a lot of the foundation stones were laid.
Oh yes.
In the way that you did within
absolutely
the team itself. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what was the height of your career with at Joy FM?
Larry, I really don't know if I have an answer to that. I think after the dust had settled and people had accepted the fact that, okay, now private radio is coming to be. Yeah. That unfortunately killed the listenership for GBC FM. Because on that station you had discussion programs, you had this, but this was total entertainment. And so I would say that the entire journey from getting to Joy FM as to when I left was the height of my career. But I think one program or two programs that I did, Midnight Express, which hit #1 in one of the newspapers, and then the Super Morning Show, which I did in the mornings. There were a few days that I would do lunchtime rhythms, and so Kofi Benson came in and handled that program expertly. But let me just share something that I will never forget.
So this is Eezy FM.
My 40th birthday.
Yes.
I did not want publicity, but trust Kofi Benson, to go out and make all the noise. Dusty Wayne, Marco Krekumante. Now, it might interest you to know that the reception of Joy FM that day, my 40th birthday, you couldn't get anywhere to walk. The presents and gifts were phenomenal. Somebody even brought a cake in a pickup. In a pickup. So you can imagine the size.
Right.
But it was such an experience. It was so elating knowing that I didn't know people listened to the station that much. And Annan Forson was virtually the pillar of Joy FM.
Exactly.
That was he started Joy FM. It was the pillar of Joy FM. It was the voice of the Joy FM at the time. So it was Joy FM, Annan Forson, and the team.
Sure. Your name became synonymous with Joy FM. Right. From Joy FM, you moved on.
Yes.
A difficult move.
Very difficult.
A reluctant move, but it had to happen.
It had to happen, and I always say that everything that happens is by God's design.
God's design.
And
maybe
so,
God knew that you needed some sunshine.
Perhaps. But even though I had a lot of joy, I needed to add some sunshine to it. But from a programs director, I had a couple of courses in how to create programs.
Whilst on the job?
Yeah, whilst on the job. I went to the National Association of Broadcasters Worldwide in Italy. I went to BBC. I went to BBC for a couple of weeks. But then the challenge was managerial was different. Mr. Owari wanted me to be the general manager.
This at Sunshine Radio.
At Sunshine.
Right.
And so I took up the challenge. I said, wow, what am I going to do? But again, knowing that this is what God has blessed me with, I'll take up the challenge. And so I told Mr. Owari that, look, let me create a media buzz. Let's shut down the station for 3 days. We'll change the name and be void of everything that was Sunshine. George Boone came up with the idea of a soundtrack to your life.
Yes.
And so I gave Fred Owari the chance of, let's do Choice FM. He said, why Choice? So everybody's got a choice of programming that we have on the station. Mm-hmm. So it took us 3 days, in fact 3 days in the boardroom to create all the programs. Yeah. But we fine-tuned a couple of them, like Odonia Sumchi.
Yeah.
But we changed the entire programming on Choice FM. But the same presenters, I took them through an orientation, trained them for a couple of weeks. And then so the 3 days elapsed, we created a media buzz. It was like suspense. What is going to happen? And throughout the period of, before shutting down, we said something new was going to happen on 102.3. But we never mentioned the name. And so the 1st of July, we came on there as Choice FM. Again, people were a little skeptical, but Ghanaians, it takes time for them to accept certain things. And they did. And Choice FM just flew through the roof. It was a total new experience, Then I said to myself, I think I have what it takes to be a general manager. And I thank God for that.
The engineer in you came alive. Because here
you
programs creating, bringing all the changes on. And what about the galaxy of presenters that you have, the caliber of presenters? Did that help to shape you up, do anything?
I'll tell you what, Joy FM had a dream team.
Yes.
But then, unfortunately certain things happened, which is normal in life.
This is life.
Choice FM, we had, I think we had a bond. There was that scare initially that, wow, Annan Forson is coming to head Choice FM. You know, he's going to rule us with an iron hand and blah, blah. But I said that, listen, professionalism in radio has got to be adhered to. We have to go through the ethics, the do's and don'ts of radio, but I wasn't coming to fire anybody. Yes, I'm a very strict person, very, very strict. You have to be like that in radio. We're taught that by BBs. If you start your program at 3, it's 3. News is at 3, it's 3. And so perhaps that was one area that actually shaped Choice FM. But we became another team altogether. Myself, Fisho, George Broom, Lilian Kra, Kofi Dixon, Yaudu Dakwa, all those people. You know, a few people joined us, Randy Abbey. You know, and each person that came in, I'll take through orientation, you know, to get the person to know the real ethics of radio. And so, at a point in time, we were named as the most listened to station in Accra. And that was on the front page of the Daily Graphic, which I thought was, wow, it was something altogether.
You had a Fifi Benson there.
Fifi
Pratt there,
yes.
At the time. It was like another version of Annan Forson in the making.
The problem with Fifi Pratt was that he had a little problem expressing himself in English. So I said to myself, okay, look, instead of just doing away with this guy who's got a lot of talent, let's reshape him by allowing him to do his presentation in Twi or in Fanti. Because we had Odonas on Twi. And so let's just have these programs. Now, Fifi, come out with everything that you have. And honestly speaking, when we said High Life Paradise, once we are